Hi everyone, Evette Rose here, and welcome to Reset Your Life. And guys, I am so excited because today here I have a very special guest and also somewhat amazing that I've actually met in person. And we have Lisa Haisha here with us today. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. It's so good to be here, Evette.
I'm so excited. So guys, for those of you who are new here, who might not know Lisa quite yet, but after this, I'm going to tell you, you will. Lisa has traveled over to 60 countries as a social engineer. She's also a TV host. She has an MA in spiritual psychology, and she's also an author. She's a life coach, she's a speaker, and she's a soul blazer and also a soul seeker. And she has also created and taught her imposter model for the past 2 decades all over the world. And she's also the chairwoman of Silicon Valley's Pitch Global. Oh my goodness, you are so accomplished, Lisa. Really, absolutely congratulations on everything that you have achieved. You're such a light worker.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I feel like I'm just showing up every day.
But that's the beauty of you. That's what I absolutely love about you. You know, like even just personally know you, you know, you're such a strong person in yourself, in your identity, where you're going in life, your vision. Since I've known you for these past few years, have just been always so rock solid and so clear. Like you just know where you're going, you know what you want to do, and you create it, you move and you shake, like you make it happen. Has this been a personality trait that has just always been with you? Like, I mean, to create such a beautiful life, I mean, it's not, I mean, knowing from my own personal experience, and sometimes when we achieve success, we've also had our challenges. Has it always been for you so easy just to be clear in terms of what it is that you want to do and create, and then just boom, you just create it?
Yes, my whole life has been really easy, zero obstacles whatsoever. It's amazing. No. Every life has obstacles, but it's how you look at those obstacles that makes the difference in your life. When I was acting, I had a list of how many auditions I didn't get. And I was going, I hope I get 100 failures. Because I always say, if you get like 100 failures, then you'll succeed. It's the people who drop out after 20 or 30, then they leave, and it leaves room for all the people who stayed to fight the good fight. So that's what I've been doing. I just stay in the game longer than everybody else. And I think that's the secret to my success, because I think I have failed at almost everything in my life. And my elixir is travel. Anytime I'm feeling down or I'm feeling sad, I take a trip, and you get back in nature, and you get back into working for others, doing things for others. Usually when I travel, I go on mission trips or I lead mission trips. So I'll get into that. But when I was a child, I was the shy one. I'm one of 5 girls. I was the one that hid behind my mom's skirt, cried if someone said hi to me, get freaked out if they said, how are you? It's like, oh my God, I have to answer how I am. Yeah, so I was painfully shy. And a lot happened to get me to where I am today. A psychic came over to the house when I was 10 years old. And the psychic said, my grandmother told me, the psychic told her that her daughter, my mom, would have 5 girls, and she'd marry a foreigner, and one of the daughters would be a star. And my mom had 5 girls and she married a foreigner. So I said, I get to be the star. And I think once I made that declaration, my life shifted, because in my head, it was like, oh, I'm going to be a star. And I thought, oh, what is a star? You know, you just think about whoever you see on TV, but I'm like, what does that actually mean? So I started doing research on it. I started reading biographies of really amazing people, you know, Elizabeth Taylor, Lauren Bacall's at that time. And I went a little deeper and started studying Simone de Beauvoir, Anais Nin, and other, you know, heavyweights, Maya Angelou, that really have made differences in people's lives.
Right.
And I think that slowly started to shift my consciousness of, oh, there's so much more than living under a Baghdad roof in San Diego with all those rules. And I think with most people, we think we're born a certain way. This is our life, and we put ourselves in a box. And we think, I can't do that. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the resources. Who am I to think I'm capable of that? But when you step outside that box, the whole world is there for you, because we all are souls. We're all spiritual beings having a human experience. And if you get that, you know anything is possible. You weren't here to play small. You were here because there was a seed that was born inside of you that wanted to sprout as a human being through your being, through my incarnation as Lisa Haisha. It was planted, and I have to find out what that seed is. That's my job. That's my gift to the world. And then I have to give it away. So how do you do that? I traveled all over the world. I lived with shamans in Peru and studied with Sufis in Cappadocia and Aborigines in Australia, the Maoris from New Zealand. And I went to City of the Dead in Cairo and lived there. How do these people live? What do they do? I went to Iraq when they were being bombed, and I went to the orphanage and I talked to the children, and they said, nobody cares about us. My father, is dead. My uncle lost his leg and all this stuff. I said, I care about you. I'll memorialize your words. And I thought, how am I going to do that? So I started interviewing them. And that interview took me on a 5-year journey to 15 countries, interviewing children, that ended up becoming my book, Whispers from Children's Hearts. And then with that book, I started submitting to schools and libraries around the world. Then I started getting asked to speak. And that's how I became a speaker. I never thought I was going to be an author speaker. It just organically came. And that's what I like to teach people. You don't have to know your journey. Just take a step each day in a direction that feels right to you. And you don't know what your journey is unless you know who you are. And then that's when the authentic soul comes in. So during this journey, I started talking to a lot of people, all over the world, like you said, over 60 countries. And then I went back to school and got a master's in spiritual psychology, because I thought, oh, I'm really street smart. Let me get book smart, figure out what all the psychology is, even though I got a BA in psychology too. Oh, but what that taught me was life is limitless. We could all do whatever we want to do. It's just a matter of showing up and believing yourself and loving yourself, because we all came to this world to love and to be loved. And if you have that, you have everything. Because if you don't love yourself, nobody else will, because they're going to feel something inauthentic with you. They're going to go, oh, something's just not right with that person. And they're going to move on. You're like, hey, what about me? You always feel looked over, past. And that's why. It's because we're not connected to who we were born to be. So that's how Soul Blazing sort of was birthed, from all these experiences and interviewing people around the world and coaching them and being a therapist.
Why soul blazing? It's a very powerful word. Like, even when I just say it, like, you feel the power in that. Where did it come from? Like, what inspired you to use those exact words?
My second year getting my master's, they took a group of us to the Chowchilla prison to work with lifers, all female inmates. And we were there for 4 days. And my last day, my last client was the bully of the prison. And, I said, hi. And I started to do what we're told to do. We had a sheet of paper to ask them questions to get deeper into whatever their emotions were. And I could see she wasn't having any of that. She's just like, I'm just here to get, they get bonuses or they get tokens for whatever privilege it is that they prefer. And I said, well, why don't you want coaching? She said, I've been in here for 22 years and nothing's helped me. And I'm in here for life, so nothing's going to help me. So she was very angry. She got very ugly with me. So I started to mirror her back, and I got ugly with her and just stood up to her and put our chairs right next to each other, and I got up this close to her, and I started saying things to her that just was being downloaded. And then she started freaking out, and then she started crying and said, "You just blazed my soul." And I just went, "You just said you had nothing to share with people, or you had nothing to give. You just gave me the name for my business. I'm not a life coach. I'm a soul blazer." And so she gave me my name. And
Wow.
and I look at that and I think, what a strange meeting of two souls. She was so dark inside and ugly. And I just thought, I'll never be able to penetrate that. But as you know, being on the spiritual path, it's all about vibration, how you vibrate. And the key to connection is vibrating at their level. So as soon as I started vibrating at her level, she could connect to me, and she didn't look at me as the other. "Oh, you're free. You must be rich. You have, letters behind your name. You have all this. How could you ever relate to me or help me?" is where she was coming from. But once I got down and dirty with her, she's like, "Oh, we're the same." And I started sharing things of how we're the same. And then it was like, that's the connection. And once you form a connection with anyone,
Right.
that's when your life takes off. You could raise $1 million for a project. You could find the love of your life. You become a magnet to whatever it is that you desire. So it's about vibration, loving yourself, and knowing who you are. Those are the keys. So I created Soul Blazing organically through all of this because it naturally just started forming. And I started saying, "Oh, this person's a narcissist. Oh, this person really overthinks everything. Oh, this person is a fixer. They really want to hide from themselves, so they're busy fixing other people. Oh, maybe I'm a fixer. Why am I going all over doing this? Oh, let me look into that. What is that?" So I started coming up with them. And after, years of doing this, I came up with all of these different imposters. Then I started narrowing it down, and I came up with 7 strong ones that could really, the other ones could fit in the box of these. And I'm sure there's a lot more. And I ask people to, when they're having a negative thought or they're feeling something, sad, or that someone did something to them that, they feel wasn't right, or they're the victim of something. What was it? What imposter is coming out? And then name that imposter. And the imposters come into your life through your family. What did your parents say to you? What did your siblings do to you?
Right.
Friends at school, enemies at school, bullies, all these things are like little scars.
Because I wanted to ask you here as well, this imposter, what we're talking about right now, because I remember we, in passing conversation once, we talked about how you were in acting class and your dad was like really fear-based about it. And did his complex create an imposter for you because you were already a shy child, and then to have someone, or a parent at least, project so much fear onto you, did that shake your foundation? Did that shake your self-belief in you when you were trying to, embark on your journey?
Oh, absolutely. My dad was a very complex person. He was like a beautiful soul that was from Iraq. So had a set of imposters himself, and he had a way to parent and a way to behave, and all that stuff was locked in stone. Wow. So he had 5 girls, and we were all like 1 year apart. So he had 5 teenagers at the same time. So he was really strict, and we weren't allowed to go out, no sleepovers, and we had to go to school and come home. And one day I was baking a cake a few houses down, and I came home, and he happened to be home. And when I opened the door, I had a gun pointing at me, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "What are you out at nighttime?" And started yelling at me, telling my mom, "Send her to an orphanage. She's going to spoil the other kids, and one bad egg." And I'm like, "I was just baking a cake for a friend whose birthday is tomorrow." And I was such a goody goody. I won Miss Compassionate in school. I was like such a nice, sweet, good student. And at that moment, I was like, "Oh, I want to run away. I want this and that." My mom saying, "Everyone calm down." And I went to my room crying. But I thought, I have my husband picked out for me my whole life. You stay home till you're married, you do this, you do that. What if everything is wrong? What if my parents aren't right and they're trying to protect me from the outside world, But what if that's not true? So I started hitchhiking. I started sneaking out my window, hitchhiking, and only getting in cars
Oh,
with like Hells Angels types, because I didn't care if I got hurt, because I thought if I got hurt, it would affect my parents. And if I didn't get hurt, awesome. I made it through. I got an experience, but I made it through. And I did that about a dozen times and nobody hurt me. I would say, why are you broke? Why do you have tattoos? Why do you drive this car? Why did you end up this way? Why did my dad say I have to fear you? All of these questions. So I was really like 12 when I was 16.
wow.
Yeah, because I was really isolated. And from that experience, I learned that there were many trips for me really before I started traveling, because it was really going outside my world as I knew it. And I think that really emboldened me, because when you don't care if you live or die, when your pain is that deep, I felt I wasn't loved. I felt I wasn't cared for, even though that's not true. It was the opposite. He cared so much. So he tried to scare me out of doing something silly or getting kidnapped or getting hurt. That's when Charles Manson was out and all of that stuff was going on. And he's just like, everyone has to stay in. So we overreacted, but in his way, he did the right thing. Because I asked him years later, I was like 30, remember that? Would you still do that today? He said, yeah, I would. It's worse today than it was then. He said, when you have 5 girls that are teenagers, then you could judge me or decide. He said, but it was still the right decision, because I wanted everyone to know there's consequences. So, but we were very close, after that end of life. But that trip, when something like that happens, people could either turn to drugs, they could turn to sex, they could turn to any destructive thing. And mine turned into curiosity. And that's what led me to go to Iraq. I went to Iraq to go get kidnapped by Al Qaeda, because they were bombing. This was in my 30s. And Clinton was still in power. And I decided to take the bus, because all you'd see on the news is the 18-hour bus ride from Jordan to Iraq. There's 5 stops where they pull you over and they check your ID and all that stuff. And sometimes Al Qaeda comes there and kidnaps Americans. And I thought, maybe that's what I'll do, because I decided I didn't want to be an actress anymore, because I couldn't do it with all the imposters. I could feel all my family members, because I couldn't kiss, I couldn't do nudity, I couldn't hug, I couldn't be affectionate, I couldn't be intimate, I couldn't be vulnerable. So I'm trying to be this, and I can't, because it would hurt too many people for me to be this. So I thought, what am I going to do with my life? Another, nervous breakdown of who am I? What am I? And going on that journey set me free, because I was like, I don't care if I live or die, because I don't know if I have anything to live for. And on this journey, when Al Qaeda or whoever, the people coming in and checking your papers would come on the bus, I had cubic zirconia, I had $100 bills. Oh, is it here? No, my passport's not in here. It's this. Like, pick me, pick me. And everyone couldn't be nicer. I'm like, are you kidding me? These are the same as the bad guys that I was hitchhiking with. You hear on the news about all these bad people, and everyone was very nice. And then I stayed there for a month, going on all these adventures, which is going to be in my next book called Under a Baghdad Roof.
Oh,
but
I'm excited.
Yeah, the moral of the story is, again, you attract what you're vibrating. And I think I was still vibrating something that people didn't feel threatened by or wanted to hurt or harm. That's why sometimes I say, oh, I put a white light around me. Oh, bless me, say prayers for me. I think when you do that constantly or internally, something magical happens where you could really stand in front of danger and you're not seen. You hear those stories all the time.
And you weren't scared either. And that actually says a lot, because normally when you even look at the animal kingdom and you'll see, the lions and the predators, they go for the animals who show vulnerability or who are already ill. They can sense that intuitively. And normally that's the ones that they would target. They don't normally target the strongest ones, right? And I think that's probably also where that match was there for you. Just were not scared.
Not scared at all. Today, if I went, I'd be scared. I think before I wasn't aware enough to really know what I was doing. I just heard stories or this or that. To me, it was like, oh, whatever. But yeah, today, learning more about the situation and everything, I would I would kill my daughter if she ever did that. Let's put it that way. If she ever hitchhiked.
Now
or
you
did anything.
understand.
I do. Yeah.
I'm just curious because you also said that, you had a tremendous amount of compassion and you still do, but that compassion was also to the point and to the extent where you almost, or basically you did sever your childhood dream of becoming an actress because you didn't want to upset or hurt your family. How is that compassionate side showing up for you now? Because now you're successful, now you're doing really, really great. How have you learned to deal with this beautiful side of you, but also a side that can become quite, or can at least be perceived as a weakness if it's not managed and balanced correctly?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it has to do with getting your soul blazed. I blazed my soul.
Love that. And do you remember the moment when that happened for you?
Yeah, I think in life you have these aha moments that really
Yes.
change you, like in childhood, as a teen, as in your 20s, maybe in your 30s. And I think all these different experiences, I think when I went to Iraq, then went into the orphanage and looked into these children's eyes, because I went to the small town of Tilkap, where it's my dad's Chaldean, they're Christian. So this was a little Christian town. And when I walked in there to see, this is the orphanage my dad was going to send me to, and just looking in these kids' eyes and listening to their stories, I think that changed me. And then when I came, again, that led me on that 5-year journey. And then when I came back and I showed my dad photos and videos of his home, his school, some of the people he still knew there, our bond became very close and it changed our relationship. We became friends also, not just father and daughter. And I told him I understand him so much more and I get everything he's done and how strict he was. I said, you are not half as strict as what I witnessed over there, and, talking to some families. And I said, so I understand. So I think that, because then that released, oh, I am lovable. And instead of, oh, I wasn't loved. So it's changing your neural pathways. It's, again, changing your story. Most of us, what we think happened to us didn't really happen. It's been morphed and changed by a variety of reasons. So once you can say, oh, this is what I think happened, this is my narrative. Yep. Is this true? I don't think this is true. And if it is true, you could say, how can I change this where it'll serve me instead of working against me in life?
Right.
And I just did that with the certain things in my life that didn't serve me anymore. And if I was guilty, I would say, okay, I acknowledge it. Let me forgive myself and let me change that narrative. Because once you go into acceptance and say that happened, or if someone was raped, or if someone was beaten as a child, or whatever it is, not accepted, or in orphanages and foster homes, because I work with a lot of kids like that. I haven't in the past years, but I did a lot of work with them. And all of them had this story of, I'm angry at the world, angry at myself. I'm not lovable because of everything that happened to them. It's like, you get to change those, but it takes work and it takes time. And once you do that, you can be anything and you don't feel guilty, because I am being who I'm supposed to be being. And maybe the actress and all that was just not my true seed. It was the seed to get me where I am today, because I took acting classes and Lee Strasberg, the Groundlings, all this stuff to make me maybe comfortable with speaking.
Because it's funny, it's great that you actually touched now on that speaking part, because you said that you were the one hiding behind mom's dress. You were the shy one, but here you are, a public speaker, and I've seen you speak on stage. So is that how you overcame that? Like, how did you even move from that to just being someone who just, like, when you speak, you're in your power? Like, I've seen you do that live, and I'm just like in awe, and I'm like, I want to be like you when I grow up. It's powerful to watch you.
Thank you. I think that came from acting classes, the Groundlings. I took maybe 4 or 5 years of intensive work in that area.
Okay.
And it took, Strasbourg put me through these exercises. They said, you're too shy. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. And they tried to put me in uncomfortable situations, which was really interesting. They're like, we want you to do the 9.5-week scene with Kim Basinger. Do you know that scene?
No.
9.5 weeks. Oh, it's where she masturbates for. And I'm like, they go, we have to strip you. You are so shy. You have to do that in front of the whole class. I'm like, I'm not doing that scene. Are you kidding me? Even though my parents weren't in the room, I was still, no. Most of my class was European. So several girls go, I'll do it. And they got up and like did this amazing, like sensual, sexy scene, is good or close to Kim Basinger's, performance. And I'm just like, oh my God, okay, I'm quitting this. No, next, I think I got what I needed out of this class. And then the groundlings, I started taking that, and it really helps loosen you up and think of things in a different way and fast on your feet. So I think when I speak, I teach speaking too. And one of the things I always get is, what if you forget what you're going to say? And what if you make a mistake? Or what if you draw a blank? And if you're in your power, it doesn't matter, because you get to just relate to the audience. If that happens to me, I would just say something. Oh, Evette, what did I just say? Then if you don't answer, I'll go, oh, come on, I didn't see you listening. Okay, how about you? How about you? And then we just play, because all it is play. When you're not thinking about, this is about me and this is about my performance. It's not, this is about, what am I giving? And you guys aren't looking at it like, the audience of, she has to be perfect or I'm going to walk out. I'm here to just judge. You may enter it a little bit going, I paid a lot of money. Is this good enough for me? But once you're in, I think something happens in a room. I know you've seen this 100 times. You've spoken all over, and you've been with different people and in this world that speak all over the world. So you understand there's a energy in the room that helps lift, and we're all in this together, saying there's no teacher and student. We're all learning and growing together. I just happen to be on the stage, or you happen to be on the stage. Whoever the teacher is happens to be on the stage. It doesn't matter who that face is. We're all in it together. And then once you start feeling that, it's just, you could be playful. You could just say, oh, what was I saying? It doesn't matter, because it's not about perfection. It's about showing even your vulnerability and your flaws, because I've got lots of them, trust me. They're all over the place. And it's just, I'm a completely normal person. There's nothing special about me. And I just studied people for so long that I thought, God, I have all this information to share. How can I put this into a book somehow to get this message out? Because I've suffered so much, and I don't want others to have to suffer like that. And if one person reads my book and says, God, this changed me, I'm happy. And people say, oh my God, you wrote a book. You must be so smart and you have all this information. No, I'm not smart. I'm average. It took me 10 years to write my book. Okay. Again, I'm the one who stays in the game the longest. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. I worked on it for 2-3 months, and I put it to the side. Oh, I need more information on all these areas. And I do more social research and social engineering and all this stuff. Then I come back, do a rewrite, sit on it. Then for 10 years. Can you believe that? Everyone around me is going, I give up. You're never publishing that book. I'm like, it'll be born when it's meant to be born. Don't rush me, because you could only put out a book of what you do once. And I'm like, I don't want to put it out when it's not ready. When it's 3 months old or 6 months old, metaphorically speaking. I go, I need it to feel the pains and go, okay, it wants to come out now. It wants to be birthed, which was now. Like, okay, for some reason, everything's in alignment now, and now is the right time. So I said, just get it done now. But I think once you sit on it for a while, you really get to articulate and share at a much deeper level, because you're, again, not doing it for a timeline, you're doing it to help. And there's a big difference in that. So many people I know who wrote a book going, God, I wish I didn't do this. I should have changed this. I should have changed that. I'm not going to have those regrets, because it took 10 years. And Under a Baghdad Roof, my next book, I've been working on it for about 6-7 years already. So now it's it's getting ready to be born. So same thing. So that's the secret to really owning who you are and doing it from a place of loving and wanting to give your gift instead of, I want to be rich, I want to make $1 million. I don't care if I make $1 million. I'll give a lot of these books away. It's not about that. It's about giving your gift to the world. And when you have that, somehow money comes because you're not focused on it.
That's really true. I mean, in a nutshell right there. But I also wanted to ask you here, you said when you were writing the book, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy. Would that be a good example of an imposter? Because I know you speak a lot about how it is important to name them, to name these imposters.
Yes. And you name them after the person either who gave them to you. So it's a reminder. Oh, my mom used to tell me that. Oh, my dad said that to me. Oh, this friend said that. Oh, I created this one myself based on this performance. I went on stage and I bombed, so I'm not a performer. I could never speak in front of a crowd, all those things. So you start naming, where did that come from? Or you could come up with a funny name or something, but you go, oh, that's just Jane. Hi, Jane. Sorry, I'm not listening to you today. I know who you are. Let me give you love. And you nurture that side just like it's a baby, like it's a newborn. It's just saying, coddle me, listen to me. I need to be seen and heard because it's an aspect of you that was not seen and heard as a child. So now you have to give it the love. And the more you start saying, oh, there you are again, I see you, or Harold, I see you, my overthinker, stop it, I'm not going to overthink this. Then what do you need? And then you make a deal with them. This is going deeper and deeper into it if you take the workshop. You make a deal with that imposter saying, listen, if you allow me to do this, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to acknowledge you. I'm going to write you love letters every day. Then I write like, dear Harold. Then I say things and then I just channel. What is that aspect of me saying? And listen, and then answer, respond, and then listen and respond. And I call that your authentic soul. So your imposter and your authentic soul are now dialoguing. Then maybe Jane will pop in. Oh, and then I go, oh, hi, Jane, you just joined the conversation. What do you need? Or we'll work on you tomorrow. And then as you start doing this, as time goes by, they don't come around as much. They don't need to come around as much. And I realize it's almost like, multiple personality disorder. I think all of us have all these different personalities in us, especially today. I think with all the chaos in the world, now we're afraid to say anything. Who are we? Oh, if we say we're vaccinated, you're vaccinated, you're going to die if you're not vaccinated. Oh, what are you going to do? And you're killing people. If you're a Republican, that means you stand for this and this. If you're a Democrat, you stand. It's like everyone's afraid. I don't talk about this. I don't talk about that, because then you start losing your authentic self again because of fear, and fear kills. So I'm not saying you have to go around and blast your point of view, but you have to know who you are though, and find your tribe and not shut other people out, because there's truth almost in everything. Otherwise it's not spoken, but you got to find that little germ of truth and not like cancel everyone in your life that doesn't agree completely with you, because then you're not going to learn and grow from them. You could listen and just and not agree, but you could still at least go, why is this happening? Why do you have this thought? It sounds so absurd to me. But at least then you're constantly growing and learning.
And you're so great at addressing these imposters, because what I'm also hearing is in this process, it's almost like what you're doing is you're teaching people a mindful way of becoming conscious of your identity and what is not part of your identity, and simultaneously healing at the same time. Like that is such a beautiful way of helping people to be empowered by just practicing mindfulness and becoming consciously aware of you, meaning yourself. And something that you're also really good at is, in what you do is you have what's called these imposters improvised questions. How did you discover these questions?
Are you talking about the imposter quiz?
Yeah.
Again, I think from working over 2 decades with people, it just comes to you. I don't rush anything. Again, it was like 10 years or so for the book. And I just sit with this going, oh, that's interesting. Oh, and I write down after each session with people. I always kept a journal and wrote stuff down. So I have about 10 or 12 journals filled, and I started going through those. then you could start isolating questions, like for the quiz or for just questions to ask people in sessions or, speaking, whatever it is. You start, and I don't plan it, I don't rehearse. So I just download it and let it come to me. And once you experience it and you're present, it's just natural.
Right.
Yeah. I
Love
think
that.
that's all it is. Yeah.
That's perfect. So you're an observer. You love to observe, and you just basically accumulated all that together in terms of what worked and what really brought it out for people.
Yeah. And I listen more than talk usually. And my husband is the co-creator of 2.5 Men and executive producer of Big Bang Theory. And I worked with and witnessed a lot of these really wealthy, successful people. And I think that in comparison to the Bedouins in the mountains of Petra and the people who lived in City of the Dead and the people in Peru, the people in Cuba and how they live and all these different lives and cultures, you start putting pieces of the puzzle together of how did you become rich? How did you become successful? How did you reach your goal? And who's happier? And I found most people that didn't have all that were happier. The ones that were successful were feeling trapped, like in a golden cage of, oh yeah, I like all the money, but look at what I'm sacrificing. I'm working every day, all day, and I have to be on. They're scared they're not going to be funny enough or good enough all the time. A lot of them feel they get imposter syndrome. Why am I here? People are going to find out I'm a fake, I'm a fraud. I just snuck into this room somehow. So they have so much to deal with, and they're always on the therapist couch too. So I don't know which lifestyle is better. It's not about he who has the most money wins. It's really about who has traveled deep enough inside themselves and got in touch with their own heart, their own soul, and are able to reveal their authentic soul and give that gift away. That's the most successful person and the happiest person. Everything else is just a game. It's what we do to kill time here. But the happiest is the people who are truly them and doing what they truly love.
I love that. And to just before we wrap up here, just one more thing that you also say is make meaningful change happen. And you so beautifully created that for you in your life as well. Is there a message that you can give for all our viewers that's watching right now when maybe they feel that there is something that they want to give, there's something that they want to contribute, there's something in them that's starting to become alive, especially now they've been moving out of COVID, been moving out of lockdown. Life is slowly but surely going to start to take shape in a different way where and I hope that I'm right, that all these intensive lockdowns are over, which sets forward a beautiful new open path for us to think differently, to feel differently about life again. And sometimes people can be so stuck in still being in the survival state where the body might still be reacting to that, but consciously we feel like we want to move forward, we want to make change, but we feel held back by the ghosts of the past, basically. Is there a message that you can give to our viewers that you can maybe just give them that kickstart where they do want to make a meaningful change in their life to create something, but they just feel like they can't quite get over that hurdle? We don't always consciously know what the hurdle is, but sometimes we just feel really deeply held back.
Oh, yeah, me too. Always. But what I do is, like, I just got back from Chicago. I was living there for 4 months because I was feeling, oh, I'm doing the same thing every day, waking up on the same side of the bed, turning off the alarm or whatever, getting my coffee, getting my daughter ready for school, putting her to school. I go, I need to shake things up because usually I travel a lot and COVID prevented that. It's like, you know what, I'm going to just go. My sister's there. I'm going to go live near her. And she has a daughter the same age as mine. And I just thought, let them get to know each other better instead of 2 times a year for 5 days a week, 5 days each time. So it's like 10 days a year seeing each other. So I just shifted. I made shift happen. And I did that in 2 weeks decision because school was starting in August. And I just did it. Let's go. I packed up just my SUV and that's it. That's all I'm taking. 5 t-shirts, 5 long sleeve, 3 pairs of jeans, 2 tank tops. Just that's it. And I left and got an apartment and just made it happen. And I think when you trust yourself that you can't really make a wrong decision, and you have to love yourself doing it. A few hacks that I teach in my workshop are eye gazing. When you're feeling stuck and I know I'm supposed to work out, I just don't want to, you look yourself in the eye when you're brushing your teeth, whatever, when you're done, and you just tell yourself, I love you. And you just, I love you, Lisa. I love you. You got this. And again, that's your imposter saying, no, I just don't want to do it. And you have to make your mind and body speak to each other in a way that it could hear it. Your body's saying, no, 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 I just want to lay here and be comfortable under my cozy blankets. And your mind has to say, no, you have to listen to that. And again, that's your imposter. Which imposter is it? So if you name it and go, this imposter wants to hold me back, and it's because of fear. So you have to dig down and find out what that fear is and name it and go, anytime that happens, going, there you are again. And you got to nurture that aspect of you and say, why do you want to keep being held back? What is that? And I think when you eye gaze, you start seeing your soul. That's when you go, oh, I got this. Because the imposter starts to get smaller and smaller and more invisible. But you got to acknowledge that and go, okay, let me journal. What just happened? What just happened? The more you do that, the more it goes away and it's gone. And then it's saying your declarations. Write down who you are when you look yourself in the eye. Who do you see? I am a powerful person in the world doing XYZ, whatever it is. I love myself. People love me. I'm accomplished, whatever it is you want. And start saying those to yourself. Record them on your phone and listen to it when you take walks. Look at yourself in the eye and connect. We don't do that enough, but just that connection of this is who I am. This is my truth. Now, imposters are going to give you a different story. I don't want to do that. I'm not good enough. I'm going to be late. I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to, I don't really care anyway. All that stuff is imposters. And if you go to the website and take the imposter quiz, you'll find out who your dominant imposter is. Ooh. And I have a Zoom class that I'm going to start teaching in January again. And I have a webinar out there for you to take. Yes.
They are ready for it. I'm so excited. Lisa, thank you so much for this beautiful energy that you've brought in. Thank you for, your time and your research that you're sharing with us, and, taking your life examples and also showing people where you've been, but also you made it. And at the end of the day, if we just also follow in our footsteps with our true authentic soul and stay connected, name those imposters, and just stay true to the path that we really truly want to have, we all can do this. We can also
absolutely. I even made an imposter family album of all the things that were holding me back, all the faces and everything. You look at this, and then that's an exercise I do in the workshops. And that is just so powerful. You're like, some people have 20 going, all these things happen and created this imposter that then once they start dissolving, their whole life shifts. Yeah.
I
make
love
meaningful
that.
change and make shift happen.
I love light workers. You're such a mover and a shaker, Lisa. I absolutely love everything that you bring. And guys, also, if you're watching, it is worth to meet her in person. Go to her live events, because she'll blaze your soul, but with love, with compassion, and with so much greatness, and just really call you into your power in a gentle way. So Lisa, I can't thank you enough for being here with us today. And I'm so excited to hopefully have you back on one of our future summits as well, because you're an absolute joy to talk to. And thank you for sharing this amazing wisdom that you have just gathered over the years, and you're just giving it to us on a silver platter. Thank you so much for you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I love what you're doing and who you're being in the world. You are a blessing too.
Thank you so much. So thank you everyone also for being here with us today. And until next time, be the light that you are. Bye everyone.